Hey everybody. So I'm back for another review of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Martell Me No Lies, season 10, episode 6. I could have sworn we have had maybe one or two episodes called Martell Me No Lies. But anyway, if you're watching this, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to do my best because I'm still dealing with a migraine. Yes, it's stress induced. That's how it's just something I've had to learn how to manage over the years. So the lights are a little bit dimmer in here. Um, Also, yeah, I saw some of y'all's comments last week that I got one of the Fletcher daughters mixed up. I'm just gonna tell y'all this. I don't care. I don't care. I don't. No, I don't have all their kids memorized. Why? Okay. And once somebody writes that 3 or 4 times, y'all ain't got to keep writing it. And I don't want nobody talking about, oh, we've already started school where I'm from. Okay, well, up here in New York, we get out in June, which means we go back after Labor Day. Okay, we don't get out in early May. That's not how this, okay? So just let me do me. Anyway, speaking of the Fletchers, is it me or does it seem like, no, whether it's me or not, I think I've studied reality TV enough to be confident in myself. People like to go on reality TV once they are broke and their lives are messed up, despite the fact that they know they're broke. I mean, see Real Housewives of Atlanta, like seasons 1 through 6, 7. Like watching Love and Hip Hop and how broke people were, and then they start making money because they're on a show. And I say all that to say, according to the Alabama Real Estate Commission via alabama.gov, not a blog, not anybody's neighborhood talk or anything like that. According to them, Fletcher, Christopher Lavon Fletcher, sir, come to the front. You had a hearing on March 20th, 2025, and you have had 6 real estate violations that have led to the revocation of your real estate license. That means it's been revoked. And he had 6 different times, uh, based on each violation, his license was revoked for it. That's kind of like when somebody will get like triple life in prison, which doesn't make any sense. And in the words of Richard Pryor, that means literally if you die and come back to life, you still go back to prison. You die, go back to life. I guess one revocation wasn't enough. But you know, the Southern states are very, very draconian. All right, so Christopher LeBron Fletcher, sir, the following things have come up and they were in red. Okay. You engage in misrepresentation or dishonest or fraudulent acts when selling, buying, trading, or renting real property of his own or of a spouse or a child or a parent. Please tell me you ain't got stuff in your grandchildren's name. Please tell me, sir. Lord have mercy. Additionally, engage in conduct which constitutes or demonstrates dishonest dealings, bad faith, or untrustworthiness. Fletcher, see, these 2 would have already been a lot, but no, you had to keep going. Failed within a reasonable time to provide information requested by the commission, investigator, and auditor. For somebody who's been doing this for so long, you should understand deadlines. I don't even have anything. I can't even kind of take up for you. All right, moving on. Number 4. Yeah, no, this is 5. Change the address of his place of business and failed to notify the commission in writing within 30 days. No, he didn't want y'all putting them signs on his door and those bills and stuff in his mailbox. That's why he didn't tell y'all. Number 6, failed to have a place of business that meets the requirements for a place of business. Fletcher, is that why you always showing up at Nell's job? Okay, sir. All right. So anyway, I counted up all of his fines just for kicks, and it came up to a total of $13,000. Which for these people who claim they are so rich and so well, that should be nothing for you, Fletcher. But see, my thing is, it's still on the website, and this happened March 20th. We're not talking about. We're looking at this in April. and one of those state systems need to be updated. Nah, son. Nah, son. I said, yeah, Christopher Lavon Fletcher, you can get on with this bullshit. He should have let Lance and that baby stay at his house. And that's what you get for being so selfish, because at least you could have claimed them as dependents on your taxes this year. But no. See what happens when you get selfish like that? Anyway, so at the beginning of the episode, we get Nell and Tisha back at the coffee shop. So Nell sat at that coffee table after Tisha showed her whole ass, okay, and stormed out. And Nell sat there unbothered. I don't know if the producer said, just hang on here. She's better than me, because let me tell you something. Tisha's behavior would have embarrassed me, and I would have practically turned into Alex Mack and slid under that door and never gone to that coffee shop again. Let me tell you something. I can't stand people who get loud with me and disrespectful in public. There is no reason for that. Ain't nothing ever that deep. Okay? It will be your first, last, and only time. I have cut plenty of people off for it. Okay? Okay. So Tisha's dumb, weak ass, I guess she drove her car around the local cul-de-sac or something, because she then turns back around and then comes back in because she said she doesn't want to have a bad relationship with Nell. I said, what the fuck? Bitch, at that point, you should have just kept driving. Just go ahead and stay the course at this point. Go ahead. We've seen you show out like this before. She should have been embarrassed. Like, Tisha, I would have been dead ass embarrassed to walk back up in there. And Tisha, you are delulu. And I mean, I know people throw around the word delusional and stuff, but really, this bitch lives in an alternate reality. Because you're not going to tell me in the confessional or as you talk to Nell and try to convince me and the viewing audience that we're not seeing and hearing what we're seeing and hearing. Okay? Miss me. So she walks in and says to Nell, look, I came back because I have a lot of respect for you. And Nell, in the same calm voice Nell had been speaking, says, and I have for you too. She was like, don't interrupt me. That shit right there. Let me tell you something now. I got to give it to you. You were on your best behavior in this scene. You showed a great deal of self-restraint that, quite frankly, that moment didn't deserve. Tisha did not deserve that from you. And Nell is absolutely right. We will know when she's yelling because we've seen her yell on this show before. There was nothing about Nell's behavior that was out of pocket, that was inappropriate. I mean, from Trisha's party, and y'all still do owe that woman an apology. All y'all need to be sending her just a gift card, a massage day. I don't care whether you like her or not. I don't like her either, but you don't go to nobody's birthday party and blow up the spot like that. That's not nice, okay? And it's rude. So, in the process of that, Tisha trying to cut her off in her bratty, bitchy ass, then continues to tell Nell, but you can't yell at me. And Nell is like, I wasn't yelling at you, Tisha. What are you talking? You don't know when I'm yelling at you. No, Tisha, you don't get to do that. Because now you are talking to me like I'm stupid. And I don't appreciate it. Okay? That shit was on my goddamn nerves. I was mad for Nell. All right, you stormed out like a fucking 4-year-old. Yeah, I can't do this. This is making me mad. Okay, so she then proceeds to tell her this is where her son has their school's PTA meetings. Ma'am, now it's so much better than me because I would say, I don't give a fuck where you have your PTA meetings. What the fuck? All my kids are grown. What the hell does that mean to me? You should have thought about that before you started showing your ass. But see how Nell didn't do that? And that's why I had to give her congratulations here. Okay. So, Tisha is talking about how tired she is of all the rumors about her marriage and how she's sick of it. It's been going on for years. And everybody is coming at her with it. Tisha, you ain't get it no harder than nobody else on this show. Mel got it the worst because she wasn't willing to take it, right? So she wasn't willing to cover it up over and over and over again. Tisha, if it has had that detrimental of an effect on you, you should have left this fucking show. And it's as simple as that. I'm sorry. Your mother's behavior, her comments on this show, her social media presence alone has led and given validation to any sort of speculation or side eyes that people have given your marriage, your mother alone. So don't start, you got that Candy Burris shit where you can get hard or try to get hard and rah-rah with everybody else except your mother. So miss me. Okay, so we watched Mel's life literally fall apart and her put the pieces back together on TV. And that's hard to do, but it was still a choice. It was a choice for her to be on a reality show. It was a choice for her to go through this publicly because she could have just quit and stopped. And that does take a different kind of strength. But being on a reality TV show at the end of the day is a choice. So suck it up or just go. Tisha, nobody will miss you. Nobody. Maybe that's what you know and that's what you're afraid of. So, and to be continued, for me to continue to be fair, Nell was not even talking about the rumors. She was talking about your loud and disrespectful behavior and getting up in her husband's face. There was no reason for that. I don't care if you're tired of what he said about Marceau. Marceau is a whole ass and another whole grown man tall. What the hell do you need? He doesn't need you to take up for him. No, you was on that liquor. You can't hold it. And you bossed up and Nell was not having it. And rightfully so. Don't try to make this shit about something it's not. You out of order. Next. Anyway. And all the shit that Scott's had fanned the flames for with Mel, Martell, and anybody else's business. I don't feel you got your nerve being up in your feelings. So I don't care. I just don't care. And then Tisha did that dry ass shade that she did in the confessional or whatever, where she said, well, I would expect Nell to understand how I feel, especially since she went through cheating stuff in her marriage. Something to that effect. You bitch you. You claim that your husband's never cheated, that's why they should leave y'all alone. And then when y'all bringing up Fletcher cheated, I don't know how many years ago this was. I told you I'm tired of hearing about who's cheating, who's not cheating. At this point, I'm like Monique. Say their names or leave it on the playground. Because I don't care. I just think it's some silly shit to be saying every season. But they've been honest about it, and then you weaponize it against her. The same way you are so hurt that everybody weaponizes it against you as an individual for not leaving him, instead of asking men to be accountable for their indiscretions. Bye. So Nell brings up the mentor shit, and I was like, Nell, I was with you, but here you come. And she talks about she's a mentor. I don't want to hear nothing else about mentorship. Apparently Nell is a certified life coach and mentorship. Anybody can be a life coach. If I said this once, I've said it 1,000 times. I do not believe in life coaches. Okay? I don't. I think you need a real trained doctor to help you. A psychiatrist, a psychologist, a psychoanalyst, people who specialize. Psychology is not something everybody can just go to school. I know there's a lot of people with these LCSWs as social workers. That means they kind of have an idea of basic things and behaviors to notice, like in school and under certain circumstances, if you have to investigate. Those are still not trained doctors to the extent that somebody, when they're dealing with deep, deep trauma, needs to go to. We're not just talking about a regular degree in psychology. Like, so this life coach bullshit, and y'all see the way Nell reacts and how she was losing her mind when they had Dr. Fletcher come in or whatever to talk to her family. We've seen how she would take her advice. Anyway, but that's not the point. Is it just me or is Tisha's nose starting to spread? You know, women's noses spread when they're pregnant. I don't know if she's putting on weight, but it's looking real bullish these days. Anyway, or maybe it's because, you know, her face is all turned up. Anyway, so we get Kimmy and Maurice. Y'all pull a plug on these people. So Maurice is going to meet Martell, but he's telling her about it. We don't care. He says he doesn't know what's going on with Martell. Kimmy was like, why is this new to you? Kimmy, you actively did a lot of pick-me shit that it even took me a while to say out loud, even when it bothered me because I saw you as somebody who was level-headed. But you asking why is this new to Maurice when you were throwing Mel under the bus and oftentimes made excuses for Martell, see the Houston trip, see multiple reunions when Mel says something, how Kimmy will turn her head, so on and so forth, and then make excuses for him, like she did when she was like, oh, when he was messing with the side chick, she was like, I know, I do think you're a good guy. I think that's how you got caught up in the situation. No, he's a bad guy. That's how he got caught up with a chick he had been sleeping with for years and other chicks and got one pregnant and his wife left him. What the hell do you mean? So no, I don't feel for you or Maurice, okay? And the reason why you kept letting that shit go was because you saw yourself in some kind of competition with Mel. And so anything that makes her look bad, you were willing to do. Which also means you knew how bad he was and you participated in that gaslighting behavior when that makes somebody feel like shit. All right, Mel is not perfect. None of y'all are, though, is my point. Anyway, so the women that used to tell you, Maurice, Tisha and Kimmy, I'm presuming in this case, to be more like Martell, and that Martell is the nicest of all the men that he's ever met. Maurice, I don't know what kind of people you're around. If Martell is the nicest man you've ever met, okay. It's because, and if they were telling you to be more like Martell, it's because y'all sexist trash ass of a husband that y'all were being. Martell actually helped with his kids. Yeah, I know the bar is very low for Black men who are fathers, but that was the bare fucking minimum. Especially as his wife worked, especially as they hired help, especially as both grandmas were actively involved. Like, y'all literally just don't want to be bothered with y'all's kids. Like, what? Anyway, so Martell knows Maurice and Marceau's bullshit. He knows stuff. He does. Now, knowing Martell, I'm surprised he hadn't put it out there and there's nothing else left to tell at this point. But that's why they come in and make excuses for him, the guys I'm talking about, because they're afraid of what he may or may not drop. So Kimmy said he sees Martell, not Martell. Kimmy said Martell sees Maurice, all these freaking M names, I can't stand it, as an extension of Marceau. I said, duh. I was talking from the time I can remember. If somebody don't like your family, they don't like you. That's it. That's it. Like, I don't even understand what the discussion is for. Meanwhile, Kimmy says he should use the time with Martell that he's planning to use to spend quality time with Monster. He acted like he didn't hear her. Yeah, Kimmy. Yeah, your marriage ain't looking good neither. And also, Maurice, this whole black dad kind of bullshit, say that for somebody else, because we have seen you be negligent. I don't care if Monster goes to a private school, has a little extra money here and there. You are not the one to talk. So then we get this scene with Tisha, Marceau, and the kids, right? Or the daughter. Tisha's telling her daughter that they need to pick up the marketing with their hairline. Their daughter is 13. Y'all remember when Tisha started this business or whatever, and they and she copied and pasted Stormy's return policy or shipping policy or something, and forgot to change the name of the company. They done blamed it on the graphic design and all this other bullshit. That company. Okay, so I don't like talking about nobody's kids, and so I'm just going to point out an observation. I thought that young lady's attitude was atrocious. It reminded me of when Dr. Heavenly first had her daughter on that TV show. There are some things that just don't need to be shown. Her saying, you can talk to me when your hair grows, and Marceau just, kind of taking it granted. He slick at the mouth and he was like, yeah, she's like me. She's sarcastic and said the other, she is 13. That's not even good enough in your teenage years not to get backhanded. I'm sorry. She was just too smart at the mouth for me. Something also tells me that Tisha wanted her kids really to have a business because she wanted her kids to be able to compete with Mel's in some way. That's just what I think. Just because she doesn't really have business acumen. But having the 13-year-old in the confessional, y'all make that the last time. Because see, once you put kids on TV to that degree, it opens them up to a level of criticism. whether I do it or not, being a reality star, even if that's something she may want to proceed with later, honestly, it's not an appropriate goal for a kid because we've already had the golden age of reality shows. We can tell by how bad these are, and we just watch them because sometimes we get bored. So I'm just gonna leave that there. Tisha tells a story to Marcel about Nell. She told it all out of order. She lied, putting statements where they didn't belong. Marceau wanted her to basically, his advice was to watch Destiny because she's everybody's friend. I said, no, she's not. Destiny got plenty of beefs with plenty of beefs. And we're going to be fair. But her loyalty is to Martell. But she also said that to you, Tisha. So, I mean, get over it. All right. So then we get Fletcher going to shopping with Nell. Of course, he's not going to tell us about them 6 violations or them real estate license revocation. But to be fair, I didn't know that until this past week to even bring it up. Now, they go to shop for their grandkids. It is fun to shop for babies and little kids. To me, it's fun. They talk about Destiny and Lance's stuff because Fletcher brings it up. I was thinking Fletcher was going to bring up what Lance told him about his mother staying there, but I'm glad he read the room because I don't think Nell would have taken that too well, and we would have seen the energy she didn't give to Tisha fall all on Fletcher in that toy store, and that would be embarrassing. Now, Fletcher asks her after she was like, basically, well, men have needs. She claims she didn't sleep with him, this, that, and the other. So he got it somewhere else. And Fletcher looked at her and said, you don't think he owes her anything? Which said to me, Fletcher disagrees. Just for the sake of, even if it's, I think he owes her something too. Because I don't think you hide it because there was nothing going on between the two. A baby is something you should mention to anybody that you were kind of dating or messing around with. Period. It's like, that's it. Also, now you can miss me with the bullshit because we are only 6 episodes in, and you told us on this season, and the chicks on the cast, we all was sitting down, that y'all didn't know this woman was pregnant, who Lance had a baby by, but y'all knew her because your son and the baby's mother, the youngest child, had been seeing each other on and off for 5 years. So please don't talk to us like we're stupid. Don't try to make it seem like, oh, Destiny's playing victim. And I mean, okay, yeah, but let's not act like, first of all, I don't believe y'all didn't know this woman was pregnant. Other people have questions like, oh, where's the mother? Where's the mother? You know what? I think we need to keep the same energy that the mother was by herself. Like I said, everybody would have been like, why'd you lay down with them, including Nell and Fletcher, if it was one of their daughters? Well, you knew what you were doing when you got caught up with him. You just had to deal with the consequences. I don't care. Lance this is his 3rd child. And for all we know, he could be using this as a storyline and told the baby mother, if I go in here as a single dad, I can make more money. It'll be a storyline. Here, I'll give you some money. You know what? And deal. And deal. Women do it every day. I don't care. All right. Anyway, so she tells Fletcher about the meeting with Tisha. She told him that Tisha's issue was that her marriage was being attacked. Fletcher was like, oh, the Martell interview wasn't enough. I mean, she just wanted to make it about that. And Nell looked at him and she was like, no, it wasn't. Honestly, I don't know where Nell was coming from in that moment. But honestly, that video, I couldn't even watch all of it because the side chick makes me feel like I'm losing fucking brain cells. But that story was all over the place. It wasn't adding up. It just seemed like a bunch of bullshit to me. Not that parts of it couldn't be true, but parts of a lot of things Martell says could be true and also a lie. And that story was just wild. And Martell was getting caught up in lies even in the interview because she was like, oh, it was, the side chick was like, oh, it was a boy speaking. Well, what did you tell me in that situation? What were you telling your wife? And Martell with that dumbass smile lying. It don't matter because side chick, you don't matter. Anyway, at this point, I don't give a damn if Marcel was cheating. He has a vasectomy. We ain't gonna see no babies pop up. Can we please stop talking about this shit? Anyway, so Martell and Maurice meet up. The battle of the people with the narcissistic personality disorder traits. Okay? Speaking of not being a professional doctor in psychology. All right. So Maurice says he is concerned about Martell's mental health. You a fucking lie. You know good and damn well you ain't worried about that. You worry about what kind of business he gonna put out there. Houseway, worry about yours, Maurice. And why you got a DUI and why you had to have your son down there only to ignore him and give him to Kimmy to raise. You're one to talk about mental health, okay? And I'm just going to tell y'all on the strength of the whole DUI thing, I know things happen. The bottom line is if he got caught for a DUI this time, that's not the first time that Maurice did that. That's why him and Kimmy had that vague-ass conversation in the kitchen talking about his problem, and he knows what this ain't new. I'm telling you, I know this isn't new. And a dismissal is just that, Maurice. Another one trying to talk to us like we're stupid. It doesn't mean not guilty. Yes, there are a backlog of things in court. And if you don't have a series of serious things, yeah, people will dismiss it. But it's not because you weren't guilty. Be glad for the grace and move on, okay? He's talking about having a relationship, Martell, with the side chick, I guess, who will be the forever side chick. I don't know. Chicks like that, I think this is all a game. Martell is acting like he doesn't know Maurice is talking about the YouTube video. Like, what? What you talking about? He's so, Martell. But the Scots are giving you competition for dumb shit. So Maurice telling him that he had played, he's sitting there trying to talk to Martell like he's telling him something, and all this like preachy speaker. What? He never applies this to his own life. That's the sickening part for me. All of them. Like I told you, these have to be the most advice-given, non-listening, non-following guidelines, rules, the model prayer. They don't follow none of that. But they always want to tell other people how to live their lives. I can't stand it. So, telling him that he's been playing villain so long that he started to be the villain. No, Martell was the villain. He wasn't playing that role. He has narcissistic traits, which means he behaves one way in public and another way where he treats his family bad in private. So what y'all were seeing, and y'all did see the on and off, y'all just didn't care. So y'all should have all been concerned with your double lives, especially you two, Maurice and Martell. Both of y'all have mental health issues. Excuse me. So Marcel doesn't take responsibility after everybody on the reunion show kept saying Mel never takes accountability for anything, but it's easier to attack a woman on a stage where no man stands up for her and to throw her under the bus out of your own catty jealousy. And by catty jealousy, I mean that of Kimmy, Tisha, Destiny, Martell, Maurice, and Marcel. All of them are included in that. Anyway, so miss me with the bullshit. Okay. So, especially a successful woman. It's always easy to attack a successful black woman. That's just the life we live. So Maurice says the reason why he turned away when Martell said he did not plead guilty was because he knew, or the reason why he kind of turned his head, looked straight ahead, whatever. It was Martell versus the state of Alabama, and it could be used against him. I said, Maurice, shut the fuck up. What difference would that make whether you said something or not? Then Maurice, after there's several weeks, I guess, of a break downtime from filming, he decides he's going to concoct a story about what happened that evening, which is why I think he wanted to do the scene with Martell, I guess, to tell us what happened the night of the DUI. Maurice, you played yourself. You played yourself hard. You played yourself all the way to the left. And if you have cases with any client currently, if I saw this episode, I would drop you as my lawyer immediately. Because you are one lying motherfucker. And I can't even believe I was living for Martell's reaction in this case, but I was. We know, first of all, you're lying. You said you ran into a pole and an animal. First of all, if you had run into an animal, you would have said what it was. You would have said, oh, I hit a deer or I hit a turkey, which those kind of animals do cross the streets, a lot of roadkill, in places outside of like large urban cities or whatever. But you didn't say an animal is a very aloof kind of response. It's vague, right? And Martell laughing at the story is what had me dying. He was like, wait, you ran into a pole, you ran into an animal, and then you ran into a pole. And then he goes, I mean, because it was stupid. It was stupid and it was wild. And Maurice thinks as long as he just does that bullshit Jedi mind trick trying to act like he's deep that works on Kimmy, then somehow it's going to work on everybody else, and it will not. Okay, it takes one to know one. It's liar versus liar in this case. Don't tell us that, once again, Maurice trying to tell us our timelines are messed up when you and Kimmy took different cars. Well, you took the same car, but then she took you back to your office to get your car. And then you take that car and you go meet up with Sadaric in the wee hours of the morning, only to get caught with a DUI at noon. People know what time it was because they booked you. What are you talking about? And that story still sounds stupid. What the fuck are you doing to go meet up with friends in the wee hour of the morning? And how do you know when Kimmy fell asleep 30 minutes before you got home and you hit a deer and a pole? Shit, your brain sound real messed up right now. And Martell asked him, he was like, are you fucked up right? And he laughed harder and harder and told him the story was like him talking to his 9-year-old. And I know I've had those conversations with kids where kids are just talking, and like my niece will be telling me a story, and I know that this is a story, right? But you have to, give kids encouragement so their creativity will flow, and also you just play along. But see, the thing is, Maurice, you a grown man talking like a 9-year-old. And I don't give a fuck that Martell laughed his ass off at you, because that shit was dumb as hell coming out of your mouth. Then Maurice said, and this is the part that got me. So he was like, so what happened to the animal? He said, did he run off? And Maurice was like, yeah, he ran off. I said, who don't shut your black ass up today? What do you mean? How do you hit? And what animal was this that ran off after a car hits it with the magnitude a car can hit? Now, yes, can a deer tear your car up? Yes. But a deer is not going to get up running after you hit it. You're going to have blood in the front of your car, your front bumper, and everywhere else. But stop playing with me. Stop. And you're stupid, because this is a bad fucking story. You done took Karen from Potomac's DUI story. It doesn't count. It doesn't. Cut it out. All right? And he's laughing because he knows you're lying. We didn't have any hospital report. You telling us you had a concussion. That's so funny, because Nurse Kimmy, who's, had access to the medical profession for 20 years and is now pretending to be in, the office doing work. I shouldn't say pretending, but clearly she's out of her element. She doesn't look as happy as she did when she would come home from nursing. But anyway, you telling us you had a concussion. Now, none of this story made the reunion. I don't care if your lawyer did tell you to shut up. It just, you were still talking to Mel and other people, well, primarily Mel, because she was talking about you bragging with that cup after a DUI at a bar. You, sir, then try to come up with this story. Now, even if you said, I can't talk about it because it's a case, I can't talk about it. No, you started arguing with Mel. You and Kimmy screaming at her, talking over her, knowing both of y'all were lying. It's some bullshit. So he said, well, my case was dismissed and I wasn't drunk. I'm not doing it. No, I'm done. I'm done. So your case got dismissed because cases get dismissed, Maurice. Maurice, you're not as smart as you think you are. All right. So Maurice, as usual, is trying to appear as the level-headed one by deflecting his personality disorder and problems onto Martell. Well, see, that's the gag, because we all know Martell is fucked up. We knew he was fucked up long before this conversation. So you trying to distract us with that really isn't working. Not to mention, Martell is hysterical at this point. This is probably the happiest he's been in a long time laughing at this dumbass story. Okay? Maurice trying to ask him about the room and the carpet and what does my eggplant look like. First of all, like I said, that story sounded wild. Somebody standing and watching other people have sex. It's the ditty of it all for me. Okay? Also, Maurice, I can tell you're not a litigator, honey. We know you're not. We know you're not trained as one, and seeing that your credit one business went, we can really tell now because Martell is probably lying about a lot of it, right? But Maurice is also a liar. Marcel is a liar. I'm just saying Maurice isn't the one to call out Martell for this as if he is somehow above it. Okay, we done heard about the linebackers and stuff. There's some truth to it, and the way Kimmy tries to get around it. But we weren't married, but y'all were living together, had bought a house together. Y'all been together for 7 years. Anyway, all right. I was in a hotel room 3 weeks ago. I couldn't tell you shit about the color of the carpet. It doesn't mean I wasn't there. It doesn't mean you can't track my car and know where I was. Like, yeah, you do things to discredit the witness, but that kind of shit wouldn't really hold up in court, no way. All right, now I know enough to know that. Now, Maurice said most of the story in the video wasn't true. I was like, most? Yes. All right. He didn't try to pull a 99.9%. No, he said most. I caught that. So, Maurice, don't say that Martell is always insinuating, but y'all gaslit Nell for years with all that other BS. And not that everybody on this cast hasn't gaslit people at one time or another, but I'm talking about the perpetual aspect of it. Okay? Martell said, you're an attorney. If that's the case, if what we said was wrong, sue us. And I stopped and I said, damn, he got a point there. I mean, Martell accidentally has points, right? It's never because he's smart and thought it out. But you didn't give him no choice when you started talking about I hit an animal and a pole. And the way he laughed at you is what had me laughing. Anyway, Maurice knows he's better off just saying Martell is lying. Oh, what would I get at that? Well, you the lawyer, you tell us. And letting people decide and letting this stuff kind of die down eventually is probably safer than somebody having to perhaps even do a deposition that will be released to the public. You know what I mean? Whatever. So because Maurice and Kimmy apparently can't just debrief at home and invite their brother over, they all decide to go out and talk about this bullshit meeting he had with Martell. Of course, he left out the part about the animal and the pole and how Martell spent the majority of the meeting that we saw laughing hysterically at his bullshit. So they're going to fill in Marcel about this meeting with Martell. He's pretending to be concerned about Martell's mental health. Like, Maurice, I want you just to fucking stop. I think the only person that can handle you is big back linebacker ass Kiowa and her bitter bitchy ass, because you seem to know how to step down when it comes to her. And maybe she needs to be in your life a little bit more, because everything you seem to think you are so smart and you're not. Anyway, so Maurice was like, he's telling him about, I asked him, what does my eggplant look like? After, they were in the room and all this went down. Martell, if you were in the room while someone was having sex, that shit is weird. That's why I told y'all that story was crazy. However, Kimmy, you're sitting there trying to keep it together, but I know you believe some of it. You do. You just don't want to be embarrassed publicly. And I understand. But so the conversation Mel tried to have with you, not that I think Mel was coming from the best place, okay? When y'all were in her garage and she's talking about, I know what it is when your spouse is out there doing stuff to embarrass you. And she was like, what? Her whole plight in life is to prove that other people are cheating. And you used the word plight wrong. That's how I remember. Anyway. Maurice, I can tell you're also a bad lawyer. And I've said that before, but I'm just saying it again. Now all of a sudden everybody's acting like Martell has been off the rails for years, but y'all didn't say anything. This was all we need. Mel should give him a second chance. Oh, Team Hope, knowing that they couldn't stand each other, knowing all the shit Mel was going through, y'all kept on and kept on and kept on. And don't get me wrong, people don't like each other. They fall out. They say things that are messed up. But there is something about people who are perpetual with that kind of stuff that's just not cool with me. Okay? So don't start trying to act like y'all have been actively denying the reality of his behavior with Mel and his family. Maurice is having the guys get together. I was like, this is giving pansy. But anyway, it's also giving Maurice's on eggshells. Talking about, so I'm going to get all the guys together. And we're going to have Kenneth and, did they call him Kenneth? It's Ken, right? Yeah, okay. Ken and his homeboys, his Wednesday party cast, Lance is there looking like he high on weed. So I think it's really given the fact that he's having the guys get together. It's given that Maurice is on eggshells because Martell knows things that he knows he can drop at some point, and it's gonna blow up. But honestly, after all these years, and Martell hasn't really said anything. I only alluded to it. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, y'all tell me what y'all think, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye.